The phrase, you buy cheap, you buy twice, definitely can be said for a lot of equipment in golf.
Dear me, that's gone a long way. Look at the quality control. 9-iron, I found a dink down the bottom here. Wow. I mean, why couldn't you just round off that top bit? Oh, I mean, that's just disgusting with a 5-iron, however.
And that's why I'm such a big fan of great value second-hand equipment, because a lot of golfers buy expensive and then still buy 3 more sets, searching for that miracle cure. However, finally, could these be the easy, affordable option that doesn't require you to go down, well, the second-hand rabbit hole, or just another affordable, cheaper option that you'll instinctively regret as soon as your scores suddenly start getting a tiny bit worse?
So in this video, I want to scrutinize the sound, feel, and performance, as let's be honest, that's the first thing that goes when it comes to a more affordable set.
But also be ruthless, as there are a few things that I like after reading the brief on these particular irons and actually what they are doing different from other competitors in this price bracket.
However, it wouldn't be a good review from myself without giving you an outrageous second-hand option that is virtually the same spec as these, great value, and potentially with a lot less risk, as I explained these might have. In this box, I have a set of £499 set of irons, which I do believe are a slightly bit different.
Because without naming names, I do feel this £500 bracket is filled with virtually the same head style, the same lofts, the same design, and the only thing that really separates them from everyone else is basically, well, their own marketing.
So at this point, let's put out some positives of the brand new Inesis 500s before I dive a bit deeper into the negatives to try and balance out this review. First things first, it looks different. Finally, a £500 set of irons that doesn't look like everything else. However, when you see my second-hand option, there are some glaring similarities.
And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know the biggest thing for me is just tell the truth, just be honest. And I have to say, this is arguably the first set that I think's done that.
Because as I went through the brief and I was looking through the tech and everything else that you normally see just splurged out from a manufacturer, it did say, we've got nothing to hide. And when I say these are strong lofted, they're strong lofted, but Inesis isn't hiding that. So much so, they've stamped every single iron, well, with the loft stamped on the bottom of them, which to be honest, is relatively refreshing. One of the biggest downsides of all golf club manufacturing is quality control, even from the big name brands. And the fact that these heads have been turned up with the weight stamped, so each individual head has been weighed, you like to think the swing weighting is pretty accurate. And if they're getting the swing weighting accurate, you'd like to think the loft lies and the other tolerances are also pretty close as well. You can't get a 4-iron in this set, which is great news because the 5-iron's de-lofted to 22 degrees. That is strong, and I'll show you why that can be an issue in a minute. Therefore, before we get into the negatives, the last bit that I'm really happy with is that screw isn't there for show. There's actually something that goes into that.
When I went through the brief of these irons, it was quite clear to see that Inesis has taken quite a lot of good attributes from a lot of the other brands. We have hot melt in the head to dampen that sound, which is one of the biggest issues with hollow back heads. If you make it hollow, it's going to sound hollow, and hollow sounds cheap. Therefore, I'll be very interested to see if these don't sound cheap when I actually give them a hit. We've got other attributes such as forged face, L-cup design, well thought after bounce and grind on the bottom of the club to give you that turf interaction.
Again, these are just a lot of words on a piece of paper that you normally see from a big name brand, but not necessarily from something that's half the price.
However, let's start talking about the negatives before I show you the performance and sound of these. And one of the biggest issues I have, potentially with the old Inesis clubs, that this pearlescent finish, this chrome finish, and the materials that potentially are used around the back and the bottom of the head doesn't necessarily bode well for durability. Again, I've just opened this, taken the wrapper off, and you can already see 2 dinks on that very shiny back 7-iron. It's one of the reasons that I love this brand, and arguably why it does so well secondhand is that it's had 1,000 hits, 1,000 scratches, 1,000 dents, yet it's built like a tank, meaning that when you do sell it, it's going to stand the test of time, and that next player is going to get a lot of durability out of it. The same maybe can't be said for a lot of these affordable options. Look at the quality control of these heads. 6-iron, I found a dent on the hosel. 8-iron, I found a dink at the top right-hand side here. 9-iron, I found a dink down the bottom here by the hosel. And 5-iron, tiny little scratch on the chrome. And I'm not saying that these have been chucked about throughout the warehouse and then just slapped together.
The last negative before we get into the performance aspect, and obviously the big risk and the second-hand option at the end of this video,
is that to me, these definitely seem very square when I stand over the ball.
But I have to say, if I was to compare this to the old Inesis 500 irons, it does seem what rounded off a lot more.
Now, without even hitting these clubs, there is one big major risk factor with them, and obviously we'll talk about that after the performance aspect. But I'm excited to have the first hit of what should be as good feeling and sounding as well. There's something that can only be described as the greatest of all time when it comes to hollow back design.
Dear me, that's gone a long way. 203 carry. Is that a good or bad thing? Wow. Well, I wasn't expecting that, ladies and gents. I need to start getting high and mid-handicap testing. Now, apart from the obvious distance I'm getting with this, because obviously it's very strong lofted, but they're not hiding that. This is a distance iron. Let's go very over the top. Let's go very steep. Let's cut across this thing. That's more like it. Now, I appreciate that I still swung that quite fast. However, this is what de-lofted irons are for. That's actually the perfect amount for this particular iron. Comes across it, but you still get a decent amount of distance and a relatively appropriate descent angle on the way down, meaning you might actually stop it on a green.
And this is why I say a 4-iron is borderline pointless, because if I'm launching this 7-iron at 15 degrees and it finishes on target, what's your 4-iron going to launch at? And this actually isn't as offset as my second-hand option at the end. It doesn't actually look that bad when you stand over it at address, apart from like the Maisel chipper square back feeling I almost have with that toe edge. I mean, why couldn't you just round off that top bit? Some of you might like it. For me, I don't know. I'm kind of traditional, I guess. However, we haven't talked about the bit that I really like with these irons, and I probably should use the 5-iron and see how far it goes.
Oh yeah, probably it'd help if I actually take the wrapper off the grip. Just so that we prove this is the first shot with the 5-iron. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually notice that with the other irons, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Nice to see that I fatted the first one, isn't it? Fatted it, 220 yards. 56 yards. All right, let's catch this one, shall I? Oh my goodness. Without a shadow of a doubt, the best feeling, best sounding affordable iron set I've ever hit. I mean, that's just disgusting with a 5-iron, however. However, when I stand behind the 5-iron, as I said to you a minute ago, you kind of see the bit of the back pointing out. It's not really a 5-iron, it's a hybrid. Again, it's got all to do with looks and aesthetics. It would probably put me off because, oh, well, I'm just not used to that. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's affecting performance as well. Obviously, that's gone a long way.
So let's talk risk, and before we get into the second-hand option, which might not be as risky, let's have a look at the old 500 series. As most mainstream brands, when they bring out a model, I mean, it's very difficult to tell the difference between that and, well, the old one. Whereas this is a stark contrast, but there seems to be a price difference. £350 used to be the old 500 set. This one's obviously 500. So you would expect to get something more, And I'm quite happy to say I do feel you do get quite a bit more, especially for the competitors that it's trying to compete against. However, just like all other direct-to-consumer brands, whether it's Calais, Tacoma, Sub 70, the second-hand price is even cheaper than the brand new price. I'll show you some Inesis 500 sets, which are just being given away essentially. And I think for a complete beginner, £100, £150, £200, that's a great price tag. However, you potentially don't want a risky option for a 28-degree, strong lofted cavity back iron that feels good. And that is the PXG 0211 X-Core 2. I'll show you the prices here. However, second-hand prices for the 0211s are very much in that category. And as I said, if you spin the ball too much, you come across it, you're steep, it's going to give you the distance that you're after. Technique obviously will change in the future, and again, you potentially will outgrow those clubs, especially if you're just beginning. But if it's confidence, feel, and sound you're looking for, the PXG 0211, especially for the price tag, is a bit of a no-brainer. Guys, if you've got any questions on your golf bag or your golf game, sasgolfacademy.com. Catch you guys later.